Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 11 of the IFL 3 series. This closes out our European leg as we see some of the drivers now making their way around for the first few minutes of qualifying now. It's been an incredible season so far, but we are really homing in now on what should be the last few rounds that really are going to decide the fate of this here title. Going into the last two tours, we've got a week off after this one, Alex, and momentum breaks. Drivers have got a couple of weeks to gather themselves before the next round, so they'll be looking to put on a mega show now before no race next weekend. Are you excited tonight, Alex?
Oh yeah, always excited. Brazil is a fun classic track that Formula has been racing for years and years, and after this, like you said, we have our break of a week off, and we'll be seeing some prep work being done by some of the teams, some real preparedness going into the next couple of races.
It's a variable track, this one, isn't it? It throws up. It's a tricky one for setup because you're every single one of these corners just prevents a slightly different challenge from the last one. Turn 1 is downhill. Turn 2 is flat on entry, and then it's downhill halfway through. It's still nice and committed. It drops away from you very much. Turn 3, turn 4, and that is every single corner is just a different challenge with regards to the radius that you're hitting, the speed you're travelling, and how the track is, whether it's cambered or anti-cambered, downhill, uphill. It's an absolute nightmare to get the car setup nailed the whole way around the track. It's just really difficult.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard because like you said, you have your variations in height, you have your slow corners, you have your fast corners, and then you have your really long straightaway down the front, which isn't straight. You have that little bit of a left, hanging left, dogleg left, that if you get in a slipstream behind that, you have a long way, as we're seeing Caitlin right now in the slipstream of O'Keefe. She will get pulled right alongside this long straightaway, and that's going to give her some good time.
Yeah, and that's it. Talking of pole position times, a quick note there. I would like to say that it's a very good thing to see Cristiano Schegertman. He wasn't here last race, and he is one of our main title protagonists. So, well done, that man, for attending this race. For whatever reason, he couldn't make last race. Incredible points he would have lost, I'm sure, as he would have been right up there. He would have been right up there, no doubt, if he was there. But Caitlin Height setting the initial pace there in the first part of our qualifying session, as we have just less than 14 minutes to go, with a 27.6, the only driver on the grid to be in the 27s there. Schegertman 5 tenths behind that with a 28.1. Ribeiro behind that with a 28.3. So we've got some close times up there. Matt Steltflug, Danny O'Keefe there in P5. We have a new driver on the grid in Abigail Williams. She's driving a Mercedes car tonight, and she's currently sat a second off the lead in P6. Matt Turner in the other Cuda car, number 7, with 1.3 seconds off the pace. So I still feel like a lot of these drivers have got a lot of their laps to come in, as we see some green sectors popping all over the bottom of the screen there. Still, it's just a tricky session, isn't it, this one? Quite humid as well in Brazil.
Yep, yeah, that's the thing, is it's hot and humid normally. So it's normally a little bit slick, a little bit slippery. But let's take a look at our race info here. Right now, it's actually cool for being in Brazil. 75 degrees. We're going for 36 laps today. Track temperature is sitting at 82 degrees Fahrenheit, but the humidity is higher than we've been seeing it at our other tracks. 63% humidity, 5 mile an hour wind, which can help or hurt you down the straights, which is really only 1 or 2 really big long straightaways. So it'll definitely be a slick one as compared to our other races we've had this year so far.
It's the speed is really going to come to those who've got confidence in the braking. Nearly none of these corners are straight braking zones, and if you try to approach it with that mindset, your times are just going to be seconds off the pace. Every single one of these corners wants you to do something in a radius. But this is it. This is title momentum now. We have got Caitlin Height there. She stole the lead of the title a couple of rounds ago and put herself just a few points in head. Again, Shegetman wasn't there last round to really defend it, so she really socked that lead up to quite a substantial amount. I think she's something like 30 points in the lead now, isn't she? So she's got the momentum there in the title, and Shegetman is going to have to fight for his life for what is still, including today, 7 rounds. So we are here, and then we have a week off. Then we have our 3 Asian races, and then we have our 3 European races in the last European leg for rounds 16, 17 and 18, which take us out the season. So we still have a whole heap of points left on the table. We have got obviously 25 points for a win, and the 2 extra points there for the fastest lap and the safest race. So you can, if you really get your skates on, pick up 27 points in one weekend. And there's 7 weekends left to do that. However, if Caitlin carries on with the form that she's been showing so far this season, Cristiano Shegetman's got his work cut out. I mean, she's stormed her way through. And Cristiano started at the beginning of the season, didn't he? And she started a couple of 3 or 4 rounds late. So she's done an excellent job so far to get to the lead there. But as we find now, some more sensible times coming on the lap board there. Shegetman managed to get within 2 tenths. Just shy of 3 tenths there, away from Caitlin's 127.6 there, so he has broken into that 127 bracket. But yes, it's a tough session out there. Big spread between the first couple of 2 or 3 guys. It's very, very quickly goes back to that second, and we are now 15 minutes into qualifying, so only 10 minutes more for these guys to get the job done.
Yep, and we see Victor Ribeiro is a little bit higher than he normally is. He's normally in that 5 to 10 spot. But being his home Grand Prix, we see him sitting up in third. He's probably got a little bit of an advantage having that home track. So what does that give you when you just, the track is the one that you race the most, you know the most? What kind of feeling does that give you as a driver when you just know that's it, that this is the track, this is the track I do the best at?
It's a very patriotic thing, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, it depends on some drivers up and down the grid have that pleasure of having many home tracks, especially being in the American Tour like we are now. Brazil is a little bit different. We're over in South America, but a lot of American tracks to call your home Grand Prix. But yeah, the Brazilian Grand Prix, especially among Brazilians, it's a fantastic, it's a huge event, isn't it? It's Interlagos. It's just the biggest and most amazing. I mean, they have lots of little circuits around Brazil, but yeah, but I mean, as for anyone, whoever you are, when you come home, it's the circuit that you grew up looking at. If you ever went to a local race and saw one or paid with your parents or whatever, it's probably that track that you went to. Or, it's like me for my local track. You're just affiliated with the lines and just the deep history. You just get far more involved in your home track than you do any other track. Even if you prefer the line on other tracks, there's just something about your home Grand Prix, something that kicks you into gear. It just makes you want to succeed at your home Grand Prix. So it's great to see Victor Ribeiro up there, and holding in P3. So that really does show you that home Grand Prix knowledge really makes a difference. Because like you said, you are very right. I don't think we've seen him that high in a qualifying session at all this season.
Yep, he's always strong. He's always up, like I said, near that fifth place spot. But there's a little bit extra, like you said, a little bit of patriotic feeling of, this is my home Grand Prix. I'm going to put that little bit extra. I'm going to put that a little bit more effort, just to get it and just show off for the home crowd, and you have that little bit better feeling. And he's
that's it. Well, every time you come back to a circuit, whether you're in a different car or a different series, or whether it's the same car or the same series, every time you come back and spin practice laps, spin qualifying laps, spin race laps, and continue your journey with that track, you learn something else. You learn something that this car can do the previous car couldn't, or you learn something that you could do this weekend that you couldn't last time you came, or you just seem to learn something every time you return to a track. And when it's your home track, you come there more than any of the others, and you learn that super advanced lap. There's a fast racing lap, and then there's an excellent racing lap where there's really all of the tiny little nuances in there, and I feel like Ribeiro's getting those out right now. It's really, really, really good to see. He's beaten both, all of the CUDA drivers so far. All 4 CUDA drivers are sat behind Ribeiro right now, so hopefully he can stay there and he can have a strong showing in his home Grand Prix this week.
Yeah, it's always good to see the hometown guy get on top and, put up a good showing. The home fans will be super appreciative of it. But he'll have to get by Caitlin Height and Cristiano Schegemann to get a win. Right now he's sitting on the podium, though.
Well, I definitely feel like their title fight is... having said that, it depends on how risky Ribeiro wants to be. It definitely puts him in a different position, doesn't it? If he's got the 3rd place grid spot, he will have the inside line going into turn 1. Cristiano will have the outside. If it, let's say, for example, it stays like it does now, Cristiano will have the outside run. Caitlin will have the outside, Cristiano will have the inside, and Ribeiro will be on the 2nd outside spot. So it depends on how he wants to approach this into turn 1. I very much feel like Schegemann and Height will be feeling and thinking about the title, and Ribeiro definitely not so much. And you can find in certain circumstances like this when a few of the drivers up the front have got it all to risk, all to lose, as it were. Especially when it's getting tight now, and a driver that has absolutely nothing and just give it everything at his home Grand Prix, we may see some fireworks from Victor today.
Yep, yeah, especially 1 and 2, Caitlin Height and Cristiano Schegemann, like you said, fighting for that championship. They might be a little more conservative going into turn 1, thinking, hey, I can't throw it in there, I can't just be reckless on my entry and try and be the first one out of the turn. I might have to give it a little bit of an ease into the turn. Victor can capitalize on that. Or if it goes the other way and they both think, hey, I really need to get in front of the other, and they throw it in there, turn 1, everybody's on cold tires, everybody's cold brakes. We have incidents in turn 1 all the time. So
yeah,
it could be that Caitlin Height and Cristiano Schegemann just get into each other, and that will be Victor Ribeiro's time to just push on by him and just make sure he stays clean.
Well, we are certainly not in a phase of the season like it is at the beginning, even a third of the way through or halfway through. Especially if it's tight up the top, you can't call the title yet. You're all doing as best as you can. You all have the same mantra. You turn up week in, week out. You do your practice. You do your qualifying. You get your race down. You surf the luck. You do as best you can around what you get around. Sometimes you're lucky. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're fast. Sometimes you're not. But as we move on to the later half of this season now, it's definitely moving around. There are, like I said before, there are definitely some drivers that are going to have more to risk than others, some that are going to see that and sense it and know, and the clever drivers are going to be the ones that are looking at the title fight and sussing out which drivers are going to want to be cautious now and are going to want to just wrap these last 6 races up, minimum damage, and maybe not risk everything to just slam some wins down, especially if you're Caitlin or you're Schegemann or something like that. But Schegemann's definitely the hunter today. He needs to win if he is going to revive his chances of a title this year, I do feel, because Caitlin's not the driver to slip down the grid very far. When she does have bad weekends, we've seen her have some enormous comebacks and finish in great point scoring positions anyway on a weekend that perhaps she should have done badly. It's still been an incredible point scoring weekend for her. This is the things that have kept her and put her straight in that title fight. On the weekends where it doesn't quite go her way, she just manages to maximise whatever points are left and just keep plugging all the way to the end of the race. Schegemann, I think we have seen miss more races, which is a shame because I do feel like he would be more in the hype. But like I said, we've got 7 races to go, and may we see him in all 7 of those.
Yeah, you never know. You never know what happens real life. Being able to make the races. For all we know, Caitlin might miss a race or 2, or Matt Turner might miss a race or 2. You never know. Matt
Turner, points-wise, Matt Turner's got an absolute mountain to climb, isn't he? So, I remember talking to some of the drivers in the F3 paddock, and they were talking about the momentum and the sort of performance that Caitlin puts on, and we were being realistic about pace and who usually turns up to the weekend and brings the goods and that. And Matt, although I know Matt is going to absolutely push for his life, it's an optimistic challenge to think that with the speed that she's come through the pack this season, having missed those first few races, although Matt is statistically capable of taking the fight and mathematically possible, it would be like climbing Mount Everest right now. He would have to pull some crazy stuff and just have 6 of the gnarliest weekends, as we see Caitlin there popping in a purple middle sector. But I do feel like we've seen the best of this track. Most of the people coming around this track now are on yellow sectors.
Yep,
so Caitlin
you can see
on provisional pole from Cristiano Schegertman in the turning point, from Victor Ribeiro still staying there in 3rd place, so nobody's been able to pip him for that time. Large gap then between the two front there and the guy back in 3rd.
Yep.
Matt Turner there in pits. Carry on, Matt. Right.
Yep, I was going to say, while we talk about these guys here, I'm going to pop up our standings for our drivers, and we can kind of go down and just get a visual on how far out all of our drivers are from Caitlin Height right now, who is sitting way up in first.
How these qualifying positions that we're looking at now correlate to that title there. It's a bit of a jump there, isn't it? From 1st to 2nd to 3rd, it's about 30 points each jump, and again to P4. So it's been a hard campaign for some of these guys. It really has. It's nice to see points spread all the way down to P32. We've had a lot of point scoring drivers in this series, but I feel like a lot of these drivers up and down this grid have had a real difficult time gaining momentum. They have a great weekend one weekend, and then 2 or 3 or 4 real dogged weekends after that. But yeah, hopefully we don't have to have safety cars and things like that this afternoon. Hopefully these guys can just have a nice clean Brazilian Grand Prix.
Yep. And here we're going to look at our constructor standings, which are slightly different than our driver's standings. We have Lumos up in first, RSR Esports, which is the lone driver, Caitlin Height, in second only by 2 points, and then Turning Point only another 4 points behind them. The top 3 are within 6 points of each other, which with 2 drivers per side, excluding RSR, those points can swing dramatically in one way or another each week. And even the Kuda Works guys, even the Kuda Works guys and Turn 1 racing, with so many points up for grabs each week, they are definitely not out of the fight either.
It's definitely to play for, isn't it? In the midfield. I mean, it's the top 3 drivers there. Sorry, the top 3 teams are apart from Lumos. I feel they've got a bit of a spread. I mean, they've had quite a few drivers over this season as well. Adding to that points roster, they've got 3 or 4 drivers there that have been able to score points there. But obviously, we see RSR Esports only have 1 driver in Caitlin Height, and Turning Point, obviously Corey has a lot less points than Cristiano. So it's a 1-horse race pretty much for those top 3 guys. And then obviously the Kuda Works, those 2 drivers are closer in points than to be able to bring that title fight closer to those guys that are only got 1 driver bashing in the points each week. And obviously Turn 1 Racing, the same. There's both of their drivers always seem to do quite well. Kuda Evo have had a bit of a driver lineup flying about this season, so momentum for them has been very difficult. Steve Bunting and Eric Beddoes, so BE Racing, doing fantastic this year, continually building momentum. It's been a. I mean, obviously we've got some of the newer teams down the back that have not had the races and opportunities to gain the points the guys at the front have, but such as the way racing is, they'll have a fresh start next season. As that closed and that qualifying session brings us to a close, we have Caitlin Hart and another fantastic pole. But it's very close this week. Schegertman put in that 0.2 of a second difference quite early on in the session, and then many laps to try and beat it, not doing so. And Ribeiro holding station in 3rd place there. This is going to be a very, very, very good home Grand Prix. I hope he has a nice, safe lap 1 and a decent race behind him. Mega heat from the Kuda guys behind that. All 4 of them sat lined up there behind him. Matt Steltflug, Matt Turner, Rob Sluter at Sliter. Where is Brandon? In P10. So suffering there. As we've got Danny O'Keefe and Abigail Williams, Abigail Winters in the new Mercedes car in P8. Gutenecht in P9. Rory Collins, Corey Schatzer, Eric Beddoes, Stuart Gibbons and Buddy Boggs rounding off the top 15 there. This is looking like it's going to be well, they're always exciting, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're always exciting. I don't think we've had a race this season that has not been putting us on the edge of our seats.
And they've all been their own story, haven't they? So there's not we're definitely not stuck in a format here where we have a race that seems to be reoccurring. We get different results every single time we come out to these races. Sometimes they're packed with incidents. Sometimes they're very minor incidents. Sometimes they catch everybody out. Sometimes you see drivers coming from the back and storming their way. We've seen some really bad luck. We've seen some really good luck. We've seen some great avoidances from some of these drivers, that those one moments of avoidance have then led on to some great positions where just that one moment 4 or 5 or 6 drivers will get tagged up, and the one car that doesn't finishes P4. And you just it's been a story to tell, definitely, and the guys inside the cockpits will be feeling that no more so than anybody else. It's their campaign, it's their teams, it's their constructors, their drivers' points, and their efforts each week as they continually wrap practice laps around and throw all their efforts into this. I know some of the drivers up and down this grid really put the effort in the practice time and do what they can to bring it on the Sunday, which obviously when it matters, and get the points. And then they have this bad luck anyway, and to just pick yourself up off the floor and gather your emotions and put it all to bed and come back out the next race with just as much momentum as you went into the last one, despite luck playing a part. This is always racing, and I'm sure today won't be any different. There's always winners and there's always losers, and we have 36 laps of a humid Brazilian Grand Prix for our F3 grid in just a few moments.
Yep, we got 2.5 minutes until we're gridding up. So I'd like to take that time to do a shout out for our sponsors, Butt Kicker. They're our biggest sponsor. Designs Ltd, providing us with tons of apparel for the end of the season for our winners and our race participants. We also have Major's Garage providing us with setups and the ability to give away a free setup for one of our drivers throughout the season. And then we also are partnered with automotonews.gr, who help us with our advertising, and they write a couple articles about us every so often. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Let's take a check on our race info. And see how our track has changed. Sun's going down a little bit later in the day here, or later afternoon. You have a temperature of 80 degrees Fahrenheit, so the track has dropped about 2-3 degrees. Gives a little bit more grip, but still that humidity is sitting at 63%, 75 degrees for the air temp. So it's going to be a little bit more slick, like I said, than the other races we've had, but so far I think we're going to have a great race. You can see a little bit of lockup coming from some of our cars here, just trying to push it farther and farther into those corners, trying to get used to that fuel being in the car.
A couple of things to watch out for in this race. Of course, we have our mandatory pit stop, and this circuit is one of the lowest fuel consumption circuits for a few reasons on the calendar, so the pit stop options are a little bit more open than some of the other tracks. You'll probably find that a few of these drivers opt to go long into this race. You may see the lead change quite late on in this race. I do predict you might see some of these drivers go all the way to lap 30 with a single set of tyres on that single tank, or at least have that option available to them. It's a funny circuit, isn't it? Interlagos, it's you can be on the limit of the car but doing the wrong line, feel like you're going fast, but not. It's definitely an advanced circuit. There's a racing line around this track, and then there's an advanced racing line, and this is where I think Victor Riviera has just come into it. He just knows just a few more of those nuances, and that where it really matters there on the corner exits and what you should know at a home Grand Prix. Just those couple of little differences that just give you that home advantage. So we really will be keeping an eye on him coming into turn 1 there.
Yep.
As the driver's warm-up is finished, and we have less than 60 seconds to go for our F3 drivers to take to the grid and formate for our round 11. Tension's running high. A little bit of a rundown to turn 1, haven't we? It's quite a way.
Yep, you can see our camera is at turn 1, and there's that little bit of a rise. We have they're going to be going, what, a few hundred meters down to turn one. They're going to get some good speed. So we're hoping that everybody stays clean and the grid doesn't start with a wreck. But yeah,
it's always difficult to call that first braking zone, isn't it, with the cold tyres? Obviously, these are blanketed tyres, so they're not exactly cold. They're kind of somewhere in the middle. And as we see, just 10 seconds to our lights are going to go out there. God, this is one of my most exciting moments. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. And it's time to go racing in Brazil. As Caitlin gets an excellent start there. I think everybody pretty much got a decent start. They're all pretty even. Nobody gaining momentum on anybody else. Shegetman filing in side by side there. The two CUDA guys opting to take the... Oh, Shegetman having a tiny little lock up there. Ribeiro keeping it nice and clean. Everybody managing to get through. We've got the guys at the back having a bit of a bunch there. Caitlin with a fantastic lead there out there. Absolutely awesome first sector for her. Bunching up there. Shegetman is getting some heat now from Victor Ribeiro. Are we going to see this championship discretion already? Oh, no, Ribeiro. Oh, we see two minor teammates come together. We've got a couple of cars there. Oh, 2 and 3 and a spinner. Is that Jackson car? No, it's Danny O'Keefe. Oh, very close there, but that puts one of those, that puts Steltflug all the way to the back, and Rob Slater. Damage limitation for those guys for the rest of this afternoon there, as I think we're going to be on the safety car there, as Caitlin is still trying to push away. She's got a 1.9 second lead. Awesome lead already on the first lap there. Shegetman, I feel, is already under threat from Ribeiro all the way around this lap, and is having to take defensive action and just can't quite think offensively. He's just constantly in defense mode.
We got cars on the track too. Right
yep,
in the middle.
All up the back. Yep. Just seen that. We've got a red car. Is that Jackson car there having a bit of bad luck?
And Stuart Gibbons got together there.
Oh, we got a spinner in the last corner as well. Was that Rob Slater again? I feel damage on his car has just put him in a. Oh, you got to be careful not to get beached there, Rob.
As we see Rob, he just tries to go on the inside and.
Bit of a crazy first lap there for Rob Slater. And obviously this is a sister team, isn't it? So the yellow car is a sister team. The CUDA Evo team is a sister team to the CUDA Works guys, and we see those within a matter of corners, those guys coming together there. So no doubts there'll be some management words between those guys when this race is finished, but that is the last thing you want to see. Caitlin there with an absolutely awesome 3.5 second lead there, as we see some position swaps there. Shegetman absolutely fighting for all of his life now from Victor Ribeiro, who's looking to improve on his P3 showing so far. He's definitely punching today, isn't he, Victor?
And there he goes around the outside. Let's see if he can make this stick. He's sliding around a bit on these colder tires, but
it's going to take a lap and a half and maybe a little more time than now just to get these tires. And all the time this is happening, Caitlin's able to just blast away from this field right now, as we see Shegetman under some mega heat there. A little bit further back we've got Gutenecht from Scharzer, and we have a Brandon Walker there, his second race in CUDA. He's sitting there in P6 pretty. We've got Marshall in P7, Beddoes in P8, Collins in P9, Boggs in P10, Bunting in P11, Turner in P12, Steltflug in P13. I think he'll obviously have that minor bit of damage there, as we see Bunting go off there and lose another place to Turner in the last corner. He's lost both there. Oh, we see Ribeiro take to the inside there. Sorry, we lost a valid overtake there. We may have to gain that. I feel that probably happened up the back straight under a heck of a lot of slipstream there. This is excellent stuff for Victor Ribeiro. Brilliant stuff, bringing all the excitement at his home Grand Prix today, as Alex Shegetman there's doing what he can to keep even the slipstream and keep this fight alive. He needs all the points he can take today. This is exactly what Shegetman can't have happen. He needed to win today, and a P3 is just not going to do what he needs to do the championship this year. He's 30 points behind, and this is it's another 12 points away. Caitlin's just peeling off there, 4 seconds now. Absolutely mega. Can Ribeiro pull Caitlin in? Or is this it?
I think the fight between Ribeiro and Shegetman has really held both of them up, and it's looking like Caitlin is going to keep that 4-second advantage and even push it a little bit farther.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on Ribeiro's times and see if this next lap unmolested is anything to sort of challenge Caitlin's race momentum. But even then, it's those last 2 corners that he just came around there. He lost just a couple of tenths on what will only be Caitlin's corner exit speed coming out onto the back straight there. What an epic race we've already had so far. I'm glad that we're already lapped forward. No safety car for these guys. The guys that have just gonna get the momentum down, as we already got one of the Orion Beta cars, the Orion Alpha cars on a BE car at the back straight, taken to the outside. This is a move for 8th place, as we see Beddoes managing to hold Collins off there. Beddoes now under threat from 2 Orion Alpha cars there. These guys bunched right up. I feel like Eric's creating a little bit of a train now. These 2 Alpha cars behind, just ever so slightly faster than Eric, as all 3 of them now start to approach the back of Nicholas Marshall there in P7. So we have a bit of a trolley train going on now for sort of P7 backwards. A few drivers getting held up by dirty air, etc.
We have a 3-way battle here in that train that you were just talking about.
Yep. It's hard, isn't it? When you have to play moments like this really clever. There's a long way left to go in the race. There is 32 laps to go. You've got your teammate in front of you or your teammate behind you, depends on what perspective. And we see there as Beddoes goes a little bit wide there. Nice costly lock up there that's going to put these boys right on him. They can stay calm. And if Collins can keep this one going into the exit there and get a fantastic run out on the straight, he's going to have the excellent slipstream. And his teammate will carry that all the way as well, as Caitlin Height smashes in the 128.4 there to put herself 4.5 seconds away from Ribeiro. I do not think Ribeiro's got an answer for that pace. We were talking about 1 lap pace, as we still following this trail here, as Ribeiro sticks at the personal best. Collins is going to stick it up the inside there of Eric Beddoes. Can Beddoes do it better on the brakes? Yep, Collins thinks better of it. Eric super strong on the brake pedal there, but he's going to lose a bit of the exit speed coming out of the center S's. Can Collins make him pay for it in turn 4? He's got the run coming out the corner. Eric's going to make a decision. He's going to have to take defensive. He is going to the middle. He stayed. Collins has chosen the outside. Eric just too strong on the brakes there, but he's going to get a slightly tardy exit, and Collins is going to get the better run there, but I think Eric's is going to be too far. He takes a slightly defensive line there. Tries to squeeze off Collins there and gets a nice big trail break into this fast upright complex as we go now down into the slower middle section of this track now, which as we see another little lock up there. If he keeps doing things like that, they're going to be all over him as this train gets longer, with the 2 CUDA Works drivers now joining the back of this group. We've got straight away Matt Turner making no meat of this. He is not hanging about. He's got to the back of this train and he started making moves already.
Yep,
great little fight for the midfield here.
He's not on the table. These drivers.
No, Matt Turner is still on the table for the fight here, even though he's a long way behind. He's still statistically capable of winning of taking the fight to Caitlin here, as we see Shegetman go past Ribeiro up the lead. This is difficult. Again, this draft is just too strong at the back straight, isn't it? Difficult to know where to point the camera, as we see we got Collins going up the inside of Beddoes there at the back straight as well, and we also have Turner trying to see a way around here. And in a minute, I feel like Beddoes is going to get swamped by 2 or 3 cars. He's going to make one mistake, or he's going to have to give up one position, and it's going to put him in the wrong place.
Yep, he can't this is getting tense. He can't make it too wide there. He's just got he's going to have to let one of them by.
Matt Turner boxed in there with nowhere to go, holding it on the outside, going off wide there. He will get a times 1x for that. He'll have to give the position back because it was off track. Stealth Fluke sat behind all of this, wondering what to do about it. Beddoes just managing to get away from this lot now. They've all stuck with each other.
Yep, 2 CUDA Works and 2 Orion Alphas side by side there for a second. What a photo shot that was. I mean, these guys are really pushing each other.
And this is super difficult. This is not a straightforward fight. This is 2 teammates versus kind of 2 teammates. So these guys, we see an epic lock up there from Eric Beddoes. His tyres are going to be slaughtered if he keeps doing this. And we've got 2 teammates side by side there. Collins going side by side with Boggs. Boggs coming better off it. Collins actually losing a position there rather than moving up like he wanted to do when he joined this pack with aspirations of moving up the grid. He's actually lost a position to his teammate and to Matt Turner. So Collins having a hard few laps there, as we see Turner break away from this pack straight away and hunting down Eric Beddoes there, and Nicholas Marshall's next on Eric's list. Can Eric get past Nicholas before Turner reaches the back of him there? It's going to be tense. This midfield is really lighting up the game right now.
Stelplug throwing it inside on Collins. He gets by the Orion teammates there.
Brilliant racing from these guys out there. I mean, we had a little bit of topsy-turvy at the beginning there. A couple of drivers having a bit of a bang. And that's obviously that inter-team moment between Rob and Matt there. Matt Steltflug's already back up to P11 on the fringes of points already. Turner's already back up to P9. And Rob's back to P13. And obviously these drivers have got... they had no safety car to recover from, so it's just natural damage. They'll come into the pits when they come into the pits with their fuel and their tyres, and they'll have that fast repair. And they'll just have a story to tell about the first half of their race with a little bit of damage and the pace that could have been. These drivers are just starting to get down into a bit more of a rhythm now. I feel like the drivers that are going to lose positions now have lost, and the guys that are going to gain. As Eric is under pressure again from Matt Turner. And obviously this is coming up behind Nicholas again. I think he just managed to get away from these guys for a little bit there whilst Eric was driving defensively. As we see Shegetman and Ribeiro changing for the lead again up there on the back straight. This is so hard to call it. These guys are having a tense fight here.
Keep seeing it. Cristiano Shegetman getting on the inside.
Oh, they're going side by side into the center S's. Ribeiro and Shegetman. Shegetman's fighting for his life here to keep his title championship hopes alive, as he's just watching Katie 8.7 in the lead now, running away with this. As Turner gets past Marshall, we must have seen Marshall go wide there because he's lost a lot of positions there, or the wrong position, shall we say?
I think Turner
so
just
we've got
got
2 for
by.
1 there.
I think
yeah, he's
Turner
got past
just
both
got
of them, 2 for 1.
Yeah, Beddoes I think was just blocked by Marshall and had nowhere to go, and Turner just gets by him.
Big spread there as we still got Ribeiro and Shegetman fighting toe to toe there. Shegetman got a face full of this turn 1 racing all the whole time.
Let's take a look at
he's
how
trying
he
to think about
him.
he's trying to think about his title. This is brilliant stuff there. Again, you've got to worry about the Matt, good man, getting the run there, using the draft from both cars there. Eric taking the defense, taking the discretion as the part of valor. Keep your race alive and keep it safe. Losing that place there from Matt. Matt moving up to P7 now, and has a teammate to hunt down now. Quite a way up the road, about 5 seconds up the road now. So, bit of we got Boggs and Steltflug going down the order there. Ooh. I wonder if we missed a bit of action there. I think we missed a crash. We did. We got some calamity in the middle sector there. Did we see a couple of drivers come together?
Ooh, Steltflug Oh, and they both spin around. They couldn't salvage it. They're both trying to get going again.
Boggs close to a beach there. The turning radius on those cars is terrible, but Steltflug having a bad day this weekend, isn't he? Being tagged by Slicer there at the beginning. And being in the wars again there at the middle of the race, it would definitely be a race again. What could have been for Steltflug there. I'm sure he'll be looking to move forward into the summer break and get his head firmly focused as he comes into the pits now to I'm sure, fix all of that damage and tank up to the end and see what he can salvage from the second half of this race. Shegetman there, half a second off of Ribeiro. Still these guys fighting for it. 8.9 seconds now, 9 seconds in the lead to Caitlin Hyatt. She has just got this in the bag again. She's been absolutely on point in these last few races. She's been in the practice sessions. She's been slamming the laps down, dealing with the race pace, on the qualifying pace, in all sessions, hot or not. And it's just proving that whatever the session throws up and whatever it is that's needed, whether it's a flag-to-flag race or whether there's safety cars involved or whether she's got to fight her way through and run a risky strategy, she just seems to be making these races work for her every single time. As we see Shegetman there going up the inside of Ribeiro for the second place of this race. Straight out brake the guy going into turn 1.
Looks like he actually made it stick this time. Victor has been
super close though. Victor's already pulled out. Shegetman's already on the defensive line. These cars are closely matched in speed. I think Ribeiro's having a little bit less downforce there than Shegetman.
Ribeiro
a little
had
moment left for Ribeiro.
A little slip, a little save there. Just going into the turn.
Yep. That's cost him nearly a second. See, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. One tiny little slip of the tyres and you've got a whole heap of ground to make up. If Ribeiro's quicker than Shegetman, which is a tall ask, He's gonna it's gonna be a couple of laps now for him to try and get back on, as we already see him peeling into that gap. He's already taken down 2/10 already in that last 2 sectors, so he is not messing around, Ribeiro. Super confident on the brakes. I love the style of the attitude of this car as it's coming into these long sweeping corners. Don't think Shegetman's just got the confidence when the car is rotating like that under the brakes. It just seems to be Ribeiro's just, again, that home track knowledge coming into play there. Gaining another 2/10 there. Ribeiro's definitely in for the fight today, isn't he, Alex?
Yep. Yeah, Ribeiro is wanting that home Grand Prix win, but fighting Cristiano Schegemann, it's probably going to keep him from it if Katie keeps her pace up. But they are fighting. There's no other way to put it. They are fighting each other hard.
Absolutely demoralizing pace there from Height there in the lead. 10.4 seconds in nearly as many laps. That's pretty much a second a lap faster than the rest of your grid. I mean, that's just
when we have Beddoes going up on the inside of Nicholas Marshall right now, and he thinks better of it. Marshall. Oh no! Nicholas Marshall slides off going into turn 2 in that little S section there. And Beddoes is going to inherit 8th place, but he has a hungry Rob Slater behind him.
Classic example there of pressure getting to you there. Obviously, he'd already successfully defended the maneuver. Eric backed out of it, and Marshall, the defensive maneuver that he took just put him on a less than desired line, maybe perhaps one that he hadn't been on before. And then perhaps a few marbles or a bit of off-track dust, and that will catch you out, and bang, you're round you go. We've got some gaps there coming in, like you said. We've got a hungry Rob Slater there on Eric Beddoes. I think this is going to be short work for Rob. Although Eric doesn't seem to be messing around today. We've got a fierce fight here for what is P9 on the... Oh, no, P8 on the track. So 4 points this is worth.
Yep, and we've seen the last couple weeks Eric Beddoes just keeping it clean and having some really good finishes. So Beddoes
Victor
might
Ribeiro
be able.
still, Victor Ribeiro still pulling in Schegetmann there. He is gaining, and he is very close now. He'll be in the draft. We'll have to go through this middle section as we see Rob there go the inside on Eric Beddoes. Nice and clean there. Unflustered, unlike a previous lap Mick Marshall. Schegetmann there now under some serious threat from Victor Ribeiro. He does not want to let this go. He does not want to let this go. Fantastic driving there by Victor Ribeiro. 12 laps of ultra pushy stuff. And we know Schegetmann is no pushover. In one of our main protagonists all season.
He is not a pushover in any sense. And Victor Ribeiro is really trying, and he's, got that extra, this is the home Grand Prix, he's going to put everything he has out there, and you can see it. He's, pushing harder than I think we've seen him push in any other race this season.
It's hard to gain identity on a large grid when you have a story playing out like we have in this title, or like we have had in this title, Cristiano Schegetmann and Caitlin Height. We did at the beginning of this season. We saw Michael Morbeto, Alex Guteneck, Schegetmann taken to this 1-2-3. They had one win apiece and a lot of second places and a lot of level points right at the beginning of this season. So the guys that are in P9, 10, 11, 12, 13, those guys, it's hard to gain perspective and until moments like this happen, until your Victor Ribeiros poke their head up and have a fantastic showing and really bring it to someone like Schegetmann that has been involved with the story of many races and make themselves known. And it's impressions, isn't it? It's that as we see Rob Slater the other week taking advantage of a race and just making great calls and keeping it clean and having a super race and just finishing P2, very unexpected, and you just kind of put yourself on the map. And Victor's definitely doing a great job of putting himself on the IFL map around in Brazil today.
Yep, and you can really see from the beginning of the season to the end of the season the big improvements that some of these drivers have gotten. I mean, Matt Turner at the beginning of the season, I would say, is probably a mid-pack racer.
looking punchy there.
And at the end, you know, right now he's fighting his sister teammate Brandon Walker for sixth place.
I mean, this is a fight. Yep, this is a fight that we haven't seen either. This is a new member to the CUDA team in Brandon. This is only his second race for the team, and obviously Matt is a CUDA veteran, so this is a unexplored territory. We don't actually know how this should or can play out. As we see Brandon taken to the inside there.
Oh,
definitely
no.
taking it.
Ribeiro, is he just in the pits? I think Ribeiro's in the pits.
Yep, Ribeiro's taking the undercut. He's losing too much time to Shegetman. He's feeling like this is interfering with his race too much. Oh! Oh! We saw Matt Turner get past Brandon there, and I think he just... Oh, that was super close there. Matt just gets a real long one, and it just the extra run with nowhere to go with it. We saw exactly the same thing happen between Max Crowther and actually Matt Turner. This exact same thing happened. That was what I was saying was really close. Rob came through at a rate of knots there, nearly tagged his teammate. But this exact same thing happened last season between Matt Turner, I'm sure it was Matt Turner, and Max Crowther. On a restart, Matt went through the corner deep. Max had a super entry, got the extra run, and there's just nothing you can do with it when you get into turn 2. And you just end up running straight into the back. It's actually hard to not do that.
Right.
You got such momentum.
Yeah, you don't want to give anything up, but you can't. Otherwise, you're going to disrupt the car and slide off the track.
You get the run,
anyway.
yeah. You feel that you can go flat, and the other guy obviously doesn't feel like he can go flat because Matt had obviously locked up and was still trying to get some corner turned. Unlucky there for Brandon Walker. He'd lost that place and had a great chance of gaining it back straight away with the mistake there that Matt Turner made, and just bad placement and just the way it planned out. As we see another move there, is this Slater? No, this is Walker and Collins.
Yep.
I feel like Brandon might be losing a little bit of straight line speed now from that tag on the front wing.
You can definitely
it disturbs the air, doesn't it? Yep. It just, the way that front aero, the way that front wing washes the air over the rest of the car is absolutely integral to the shape of that F3. It doesn't have much aerodynamics, but it definitely does have aerodynamics. So any damage on that front wing will upset that projectile through the air. And you will just lose straight line speed. You will lose front end stability. So Brandon, if I was him, I'd be looking to get in the pits now and change my front wing, get my fuel in.
You can see there on this shot, his front right part of the wing left on our screen is definitely a little deformed. That means that air is not passing over like it should. It's just going to cost him time every single lap. So.
It's right where you've got those little leading edge winglets that just throw the air around the side of the tyre there, and obviously if you bash that end plate in like that, you've just got that front leading edge of your tyre there just slapping straight on that fresh air like a brick, and it's just the worst thing. And obviously the other thing, your brake ducts aren't going to be working properly because the air isn't going to be going to them because you've bent it essentially.
Yep.
But unlucky there. As we see, we've got to keep our eyes now on Victor Ribeiro. He is 38.3 and closing on the lead. So this, obviously, it was a... So I predict Scharzer comes into the pit now as well. Yeah, he does come into the pit. You have a situation where I feel it's about 28 seconds for a pit stop. If Ribeiro was 10 seconds behind Caitlin when he came into the pit, and he's now 38, 39 seconds behind his 28-second pit stop. And everybody's got to pit. Everybody except, obviously, the guys that had damage at the beginning of the race. And Ribeiro. So let's see if that undercut can work. Let's just keep an eye on how far he is behind the lead, that 38.8-second gap. And see if he can actually... Well... Shegetman's 14 seconds off the lead now, so if that's genuinely 4 seconds that Shegetman's has lost, by rights when Ribeiro, when this all plays out, Shegetman he's in the pit lane now, so we're about to see right now where this is all going to play out. Shegetman couldn't leave it much longer. Maybe he did really lose a bit of time there, as we see our second place in the standings man there in the turning point, trying to get his mandatory pit stop done, and he really wants to be getting out in front of Ribeiro, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. As we have Shegertman coming out the pits now. And he spins coming out the pit lane! Shegertman has done a 4.360 and a half coming out, and that has just shattered his race.
Oh, and he does it again!
Spins again! Nuclear tyres. What a weekend for Shegertman, and just like that, it can flip on its head. Absolutely shocking stuff there as we see Corey Scharzer fly up the inside of Jackson Carr. Was that Jackson Carr or was it Danny O'Keefe? Was Danny O'Keefe there? Mega move there, or was it a defence? But rotten luck there for Shegertman, as I think he cut the exit at the pit lane as well there. So we might see a penalty there, but he definitely 2 wheels on the white line. Oh, some gaps there coming now. As we see Walker in the pits now as well, to assume to fix his damage and try and salvage his race there. Shegertman on the outside of Boggs. His tyres will be on fire after that was 2.5 spins. That was 2.5 spins on a brand new set of tyres. That will be awful for momentum. And the undercut that Ribeiro was hoping to pull will just be out of the... That's it. There is no undercut now. Ribeiro will just straight up gain that place.
Yep, Ribeiro will inherit second place, and I don't think anybody was even near them time-wise.
Dude.
And Ribeiro on fresh tires and with gas is still pushing up behind Rob Slider.
Hiya! That's exactly what Shegertman didn't need. It's a tricky exit for this pit, isn't it? It follows the S's. It's a tight and quite a bumpy left-hander. And we see it happen quite a lot in practice. And obviously the first thing you do when you're in the race is get all hyped up and you're full of adrenaline and you just want to get that pit exit. And it's quite a straightforward thing. And it's not a straightforward thing. Some of these pit entrants and exits have been very tricky this year for these drivers, as we're just seeing. This Shegertman's one of the most talented drivers on this grid, and it's still catching him out. Yeah. Crazy development to this race. Height there with the 28-second lead there. But I do believe now that everyone up the front has pitted. Ribeiro's pitted, Shegertman's pitted.
Yep, let's see him come out of the pits here, and let's just see what happens.
This is insane. He loses it straight. I wonder if he hits the curb.
Ooh, no, it's just that little, I think there's that tiny
and he
bump.
Does hit the wall.
His back end touches
the wall as well.
And then he's
so
just
will have
lighting those tires on fire.
It's
and
just that, and then it happens
straight again. Because those tires are just so hot again.
He will be looking back at this footage and crying because this has thrown, I believe, a podium away. For sure. And once again...
Watch coming out here. He hits this little bump. It gives a bump, it upsets the back end, spins him around and bumps.
It really is a lot less grip, isn't it?
Hot tires at this point, and he just tries going.
Rob Slider then in the pits.
Just loses it
from
again.
P5. Super stuff.
Let's see if anybody else has this happen to him here.
See if it can, see if we get anybody else caught out by this this slippery pit exit as we seem to have. No, Rob manages to keep it fine, takes a nice racing line.
Ooh,
it's tricky, isn't it? This is tricky. I wonder when the drivers watch this back if they sympathise. When you make a mistake like this in the race, and then you look back at the footage and you see actually quite a few drivers made the same mistake, you go, pit exit trouble. Caitlin Height, leader, comes into the pit lane, but I fear this is unless something absolutely devastating happens, she's a pit stop ahead anyway, so she won't come out behind anyone. Even if Gutknecht and Turner opt to stay out, they will stay in P2 and P3. And let's see if Caitlin Height can get a pit stop done without any moments coming out of the pit lane.
And she spins.
As we see her take down. Yep, nope, everything's okay.
And she is away cleanly so far. Onto the straight now.
It's a super position to be in. When you've got that much of a cushion, you can really dial back the risk and just come away from that white line and just lose some time. And you can really run a safe race, can just nail it down. As we see Matt Turner coming into the pits now, we're going to see some places lost and gained as this race rolls out back to the correct grid position, as we saw it jumbled about a bit there. Some drivers pitted and some drivers haven't. Seeing who's gained and who's lost. Ribeiro back up to third, as you still see Gutenek's got a pit, so I still think Ribeiro's on for a strong podium. I think we're still going to keep the fight alive for who's going to take the last podium spot there. Can't call that yet. Collins, Turner's only 5 seconds behind that.
Right
O'Keefe's
behind
super
Turner.
close now. Yeah, this is a great fight now. And again, this is a fight that we've not seen, as we see a bit of a spinner there. Is that Jackson Carr spinning in the mid sector there?
Yep, that would be Jackson Carr. Let's take a
Well,
look and see what happened.
Yeah, we're looking at the other one there. I will try to keep you audio updated with how the other two are progressing.
And he just loses the back end going into that high-speed right-hander.
As Jackson, as we see Danny O'Keefe getting past Matt Turner there, we have to see a replay of that. He gets past him in the mid-sector, so I wonder if he gets around him in that fast right-hander. Oh, takes the outside line, gets the inside run for the next corner, that's it. And then you block off and there's nothing you can do. Great driving there from Danny O'Keefe. And we know that Matt Turner is a good benchmark. This is no slow driver. Matt is a great driver.
Yeah, the only disadvantage Matt has is that he's on those colder tires. He just came out of the pits, and Danny O'Keefe is yet to pit, and his tires are nice and worn in. They're nice up to temp, and he is. You can see the difference there. Just
Collins into the pit. Still a few places to move, but we see Schatzer yet. Collins all the way down there. So our current race leader, and the gap has come down a little bit, a couple of seconds, is Caitlin Height from Alex Gutenek, who was 10.4 and he's now 9.7. So he is slowly creeping in on the leader, but like I said, she can afford to be super cautious because Alex has still got a pit. So her nearest actual on-track rival is 22.9 seconds away. So, and with only 15 laps to go, you can start to wind it in now. You've done your Kimi Räikkönen, you've shot your bolt, you've gone really long into the race, and you've put out that advantage that you could call race winning, and then you can just dial the risk back and just bring the car home. A super position to be in, a super comfortable position to be in, and you get to just get into your rhythm, get around the traffic, and just comfortably sail home. But Ribeiro's had a fantastic race this weekend. Fantastic race. As we see Gutenek there again, coming in a couple of tenths on Caitlin there, but again that will be the difference between a heavy car and a light car.
Yep.
As we see Gutenek at the end of his stint and Caitlin at the beginning of her second stint.
Yep, and that's it, isn't it? I mean, Caitlin is not putting up any risky plays. She's not putting up any throwing it inside, trying to go on the outside. She's not fighting anybody. Anybody that she comes up behind should just move out of the way with a blue flag. But as long as no lap traffic has anything to say about it, Caitlin Height is looking good for another win. Still got a long way to go. 14 laps.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
But she is not the type of driver. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but she is not the type of driver to make uncharacteristic mistakes. We saw one at Watkins Glen, and we saw one at Long Beach, but those are pretty much the only two unforced errors that we've seen from Caitlin. Watkins, she obviously went a bit deep into turn one, managed to avoid damage, respin the car back round, and come back to take a mega victory. So even when she does have these moments, she pretty much turns it on her head anyway. And the other moment that we saw her have was at Watkins Glen, when she got a little bit greedy with the power coming out after that restart, didn't we? As Eric had his big crash behind, we thought it was caught up. We thought it all started by her, didn't we? And then we watched the replay, and it actually turned out that she'd lost it. She'd lost it all on her own, and everything else happened completely separate to that. But she still managed to fight back for a mega podium. So this is she's just incredible. When you've got outright pace like she has today, or like she's demonstrated today, like she's demonstrated in many races, you can just afford, isn't it? You can have a bit of bad luck, and you can just absolutely throw the pace down, and just recover from it. Unlike someone that has a bit of bad luck, or someone that's hanging on to P4 with their dear life, they have a bit of bad luck, they slip down to P8 and can't come back, and they stay in P8. With someone like Caitlin, someone like Matt Turner, someone like Shegerman would just cut ground back and really make that difference. as we see. Just 13 laps to go now. Well over halfway. I think Gutnick is going for the long option with that field, like I said earlier. He's just losing a little bit of ground there to Caitlin, but obviously he will have a lighter car. It will feel better for him. It's going to be tight between him and O'Keefe when he comes out the pit lane. And Turner. They're going to be super tight.
O'Keefe is yet to stop, but the main one he's going to be fighting with is Matt Turner.
Turner and Boggs and Shegetman, they're going to come out. I mean, we see Shegetman and Turner there. Shegetman and Boggs there, very, very, very close, as we might see a bit of online action from those guys.
And you got to wonder if Cristiano Shegetman has some damage to that rear wing or that rear,
I definitely think
exhaust.
I saw some deformation, yeah.
And there goes.
You see Boggs in the pits.
Yeah, Boggs going into the pits.
Yep.
I think that kind of
propelled Shegetman.
I think that kind of threw Cristiano Shegetman off a bit. He almost followed him into the pits and had to dodge the pit lane wall there.
O'Keefe really flying there, setting in personal best. So he, that man there, pushing really hard there, but he's got an enormous amount of gain. He's got over 17 seconds there to catch the next car, but it doesn't stop the man from trying. Boggs there coming in the pits there as well. On the pit exit, he's just losing the positions that he's going to lose. All the way down to P13 there. Oh, Riki, it's going to be close coming out the pit lane between those guys, between him and Stuart Gibbons. Can't believe what sort of performances that we've seen from Caitlin Heights. It's absolutely demoralising pace. Absolutely insane.
Yep, as you can see, she is running, her best was a 127.8. The rest of the field is almost a second behind her.
Yeah, she's really dialed in the setup, or she just absolutely knows that line. Or usually it's a combination of both, isn't it? When you're that far in front, it's never one thing. It's this little braking zone and that little tweak to the car setup and the amount of laps that I did and the fuel strategy I was trying, and just as many things as you can turn over as possible, and then you gain yourself that 0.8 advantage a lap, and people struggle to even find out why. They look at what you're doing and they look at what they're doing. It doesn't seem to be that much different, except the board says you're 0.8 slower.
Ooh, Stelplug almost loses his rear end there, as we have a 3-long train here.
Cooking tyres, you get pushy, you get that dirty air, and it's obviously nice and hot coming off the back of these cars.
So we have Beddoes and Stelplug. Stelplug gets by Beddoes here.
Starting to slowly come back to him this race, isn't it, Stelplug? He had it will be a massive race of what could have been if he hadn't have had those couple of moments. They obviously got taken out in the first incident, and then he took somebody else out in the second incident.
Mm-hmm. And we have Matt Turner here. This is going to be interesting, because when Alex Gutnick does pit, Matt Turner has been kind of held up by Danny O'Keefe. I'm not sure where Matt Turner will be corresponding to Alex Gutnick once Gutnick pits, because he's got to be pitting here any lap now. He's got to be running low on fuel.
Yeah, like I said, we mentioned before about the fuel consumption being lower here than anywhere else on the championship, and I'm not, to be honest, even really sure why, because it has a plenty of decent straights and enough straight line for me to think that there's still a good portion of time on a fully depressed accelerator, and it comes out at one of the lowest. Maybe it's just all those corners and all that coasting and rolling that you do. It just all adds up towards the end of the lap, and that sector 2 is still really, really, really twisty and sharp, isn't it? Very technical.
Yeah, sector 2 is like you said, very technical. You can feel like you're going fast, like you mentioned earlier, but you're just losing boatloads of time.
And that will be something that's obviously, when we look forward to the next bunch of updates on our racing, when we get our lovely rain, that will be one of those things that we have to call during that as well, especially if we get drying wet to dry and then dry to wet, those transition periods, you'll have to cool the gap between inters and wets. Inters and wets and dries absolutely perfectly.
Yeah,
that crossover gap. Yeah,
it's gonna be a lot of fun. A lot of fun, in my opinion, to see rain in iRacing. And when it comes to the cars, that strategy completely changes. If you know you're never gonna have rain, it doesn't change anything. But we see Matt Turner go on by Danny O'Keefe finally, and O'Keefe might think about doing his pit stop at this point. But with rain, it just adds a whole nother element, as we saw in real life today in the F1 race. It adds an element of, do I come in, do I swap tires to dries, do I stay out and risk intermediates or wets, do I are we going to stay on intermediates the whole time, and what happens to that tire when you run on it and it's not really wet enough for intermediates, but it's not quite dry enough for slicks. It's going to melt that tire away, and we're going to see drivers struggle with that. Some might, as we have Matt Turner lock up a bit, some might struggle, and some might actually come out on top and have a really good run in the rain. Some drivers just naturally better in the rain.
And it's not just reduction of grip on a racetrack with regards to a slippery and wet surface. This game, or iRacing, the sim as it were, does have marbles and dust and things like that. It has all that stuff simulated in it anyway. So to have the rain as well, it's just going to be it's going to play havoc with the track temperatures. You're going to have a session with a 40-degree track temperature, and it's going to rain and it's going to drop by 20 degrees. Not only will it be wet, it will be very cold. And obviously on the hotter days, if you have a very hot summer and it rains and it melts and you'll get a lot of evaporation, you'll get a very high humidity. So things will change mid-session more than they do now.
Yep.
Which is what I'm looking for. You'll have to be a bit more on toes more as a driver. And you'll have to be much more forward-thinking and decisive about which tyres to choose.
And we have teammates right here in Buddy Boggs and Rory Collins, and they are trying so hard to get around Eric Beddoes, and they just can't. They're giving each other plenty of room, but at the same time, they're also kind of tiptoeing, and that's causing them not to be able to get that last point spot from Eric Beddoes and then move on to Matthew Stelplug.
It's always horrible, isn't it? It's the last thing when you come to a race and you put all that race effort in. The last thing you want to do is tag with your teammate. We've seen it once or twice already this season before teammates clash, and we saw Michael Morbeto and Alex Gutenet going toe-to-toe in Nürburgring, and we saw Rob and his teammate then, Stathis Kokodogiannis, having a crash at Montreal. It's just the last thing, isn't it? You put all that effort in, you practice as a team, you get the line dialed in, and you get all the practice and the setup and everything, and then you turn up together at a weekend and come together, and then the whole thing just gets thrown away. So it's just a super difficult thing to fight your teammate, especially if you've got a teammate that thinks they're faster than you or believes they're faster than you and doesn't necessarily give up the fight. Like I said, you'll see some of these teams will have a better orchestration of that, and they'll know a little bit more about team orders, and they'll be a little bit more switched on when it comes to pace and who's got the race and who hasn't. And some teams just won't have any of that. Some teams will just be racing for themselves, but with the same livery on as the other car, and it's just another truck car on the track to fight.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, you can see these guys are. Yeah, you see these guys are working together. Collins backs off and gives Boggs the ability to attack Beddoes, and you just see.
Oh, look up, and then Beddoes are going to be straight back on it. And look, see that is almost what we saw there with Stelpflug, and I can't remember who he tapped up the back. It's the same thing, but the gap spread between them wasn't that big. It was only a couple feet, so it compresses up a little bit. But because Brandon had all that fresh sight to watch Matt Turner mess up that first turn and then take the correct line and just swoop down that hill, and it's downhill. It really, really, really is downhill. You don't gain a perspective of just how downhill this is until you go to Brazil, which I've never been, but the undulation picks the car speed up so much more than if you were going the other way.
And as we can see here, Gutenet has pit, and he's going to be on cold tires, and Matt Turner will start closing the gap here for that last podium spot.
The fight for that third podium is definitely open, isn't it?
Yep, Turner's
Definitely
really
open.
closing. You can just see it in the cars there, how much faster he is.
It could be Gutnick. Gutnick's not going to want to Gutnick's not going to want to let this one go. Turner's not going to want to let this one go. We know he's fighty in the later half of these races. He really switches on. And Shegetman, despite his hard luck in the pit lane, the raw pace has shone through, and he is just a little bit behind these guys. So can he make it back to the podium?
That would be an incredible drive from Shegetman. And Turner is not being patient at all. He wants that spot and to put a gap. Because he knows as soon as...
on previous moves, as soon as he turned up to that train in the middle earlier, it was straight up the inside there. Straight up the inside, but Gutnick there gets a run, but he's blocked off the corner well, Matt. We know that you need to break away. You need to break away around this corner. You need to get a superior exit by far to hold off as we see him using all the exit curb there. He needs to get a superb momentum. These cars don't have the drag reduction system, so they need to rely solely on manual wake. Can he get close enough in the wake? I think Matt got a good enough exit out of that corner to just fend off Gutnick coming back there on this lap. And then now Matt's got to make his way up the grid. 10 seconds to if he wants to catch Ribeiro, and there is only 5 laps left. So that is probably the last realistic place I would expect Matt Turner to overtake today, unless Ribeiro makes a blunder. Again, I don't want to jinx that. But Shegetman closing in now on a slowing Alex Gutnick, I feel.
Yeah, and like I said, Gutnick, cold tires, just out of the pits. He is going to be struggling for a couple laps to get him up to temp, whereas Matt Turner and Shegetman, they got hot tires. They're in that good position with the proper tools to make a move on Gutnick and get by him.
And yeah, Gutnick has pitted now, isn't he? He pitted not that long ago.
Yep, yeah, it was just our last lap that he pit.
So I was right. He went all the way to 30. There were some drivers that were going to go all the way to 30 and make a long game of it. And in Gutnick's case, it has actually paid off because he's in P4 after all of that stuff. So it just means just hang in with the leader's pace and don't let yourself get bogged back in the back where in with their races and get fighting and things like that. Just keep yourself above it all. Go really long, wait till the gaps stretch out, and then pit into effectively fresh air. Yep. And then just carry on doing what you were doing.
As we see, Shegetman is closing the gap in the wake of Gutnick. And Turner's already 2 seconds ahead of Gutnick here. But let's see if now that Gutnick's starting to get those tires up to temp and worn in a bit, let's see if he can do anything to fend off Shegetman. And try and get up to Turner again.
He's hungry though, Shegetman, isn't he? I can just feel it. I think he's just a little bit irritated after that spin coming out the pit lane. He just wants to make up for it, as you rightfully would want to if he'd made that little moment. I mean, that probably cost him a whole heap of time there. That 360 spin in the pit probably cost 7 or 8 seconds, and then to go down the hill not 5 feet and do it again is just unbelievable. He's lucky he's still got wheels on the car. Really, he could have slid into the wall and bent the car right there.
Yeah, he did bump the wall, but just not enough to cause any crazy damage.
As you see, Caitlin there absolutely mush a 1:27.70. She is now 30 seconds ahead of Victor Ribeiro. Victor currently in his strongest position, and all the way at lap 33 of 36. So the pit stop for him there. We never really got a chance to know whether the undercut was working or not for Ribeiro, because he never got a chance to play it because of Cristiano's mistake there. But this is the racing. This is what happened. Shegetman made a mistake. Victor didn't. If it would have been the other way around, it would put the fight off there as well. Shegetman would be in second and Ribeiro would be miles behind.
We have Shegetman and Gutnick going side by side here. Ooh, Gutnick throwing it too far into the corner, and Shegetman's just going to drive on by. Mistake there by Gutnick. Trying to keep that inside line, and he just locks it up.
Let's get my 3 laps to go. 3 laps to go as the sun is looking to nearly set now. I just can't believe the flawless race that Caitlin's had. And I believe now we've had a race in the IFL, maybe the first race this season without a safety car. I want to be bold and say that.
Race isn't over.
I think so. I think
Race
so.
is
We
not
may
over,
have,
but
we
but
have
I
had
think
one
so.
other. Yeah, I mean, if it happened now, I mean, it's the cars are so spread out. The chances of any one of these cars or 2 of these cars getting in the way of, even if you are in the way, the cars would be coming around the corner in ones with a fair opportunity to go around it, unlike a bunch of cars.
We just had a spin out by Nick Marshall that almost took Cristiano Schegemann out. Same for Alex.
Yeah, it's always something happens in the last couple of laps, doesn't it? What was that? Was that an absolute heart in mouth moment for Schegemann there?
Yeah, let's take a look.
As you see Marshall on the curb there.
Hits the curb, comes around, and just turns it.
Too much.
But, Schegemann.
Oh!
Man, what a close high reaction time there for both of the drivers.
Yeah, a bit more closer to Gutnick there than Schegemann, but absolute race defining stuff there. That is exactly what we're talking about, isn't it? One little moment like that, and you just lapse in paying attention. You come around a corner to a car, and you do 34 laps, and on the 35th lap, there's a car in the middle of the track. You just don't know. You've got to keep your wits about you the whole race, all 36 laps.
Yeah, you really never know.
Unlucky their spin for Nicholas Marshall there.
Last year we had... Actually, it was you. We had you at Long Beach on the last lap of the race crash into a lapped car. That was it was a blind corner, and it essentially took a win. It took a win away from you. I mean, nothing you can really do because you're coming into a blind corner, but it's just insane to think that something like that has happened once already. It can happen again. It almost just happened in front of us again here.
Yeah.
For a
it's
podium.
Just about visibility. Yeah, visibility and how much commitment you have to send through a corner. The speed that I'd committed to that corner with was just far too much to do anything if there was something way on the other side. And the line that I'd taken was so different to the car I was following. He had the opportunity to take to the inside, and I was going so fast that I just would never have got my car stopped to go to the right. So the only option I had was the left, and there wasn't enough space. And that was it. Last lap, wasn't it? Last lap, few corners to go for the lead of the race. Doesn't get any bitier than that. But we've had some... So we just talk quickly about who the winners and the losers here. Caitlin Height obviously goes without saying, another absolutely staunch performance as she enters the last lap now with a 33-second gap. Ribeiro has managed to convert his mega qualifying position there from P3 to gain another position there. If we can get around this last lap to finish an absolutely mega P2, best result in the IFL, first podium, most amount of points he's taken, just the best showing from this man that we've had. Home Grand Prix really do the business. Matt Turner there, coming into this race, we know he was unconfident with the car and the line and the circuit, and so to finish on the podium, I know he'll be super happy with that. Schegemann, I feel like a very frustrated run today. He could have had a lot better than that. Probably had the chance to fight for a P2 there. I feel if he'd had a perfect race and he hadn't had that moment in the pit stop, it would have been tight. We were looking at the undercut between him and Victor. So yeah, we'd have definitely seen him continue to fight, I do believe, long and hard into this race, as we've seen him do many times before. Gutnick there, running long and choosing to pit on lap 31 of 36, and losing that time later on, but still showing P5, so that's a good amount of points for there. Rob Slater there having a couple of little bangs on the first lap, getting into a bit of the wars there, but managing to get his head down and finish P6, which is a great recovery drive there from Rob. We normally see Rob parked up and DNF'd a lot of the time by this time in the race.
And then Caitlin comes across the line, and she gets, I don't even know how many wins she has now. She's got a good majority of our wins this season.
Yep, she has definitely become the main driver to beat there. It was a very calm and collected and very controlled race there from Caitlin. took the pole by only a few tenths. But I feel like if there was some heat there, I feel maybe she may have been able to go a little bit quicker there, because in the race, that was just insane. And she was doing nearly qualifying pace towards the end as well. So absolutely incredible win. And Victor Ribiera comes there to take second place for his first podium there. Absolutely a mega drive there. And Turner's going to come home to convert that podium, and Shegetman's going to finish fourth, Gutneck fifth. And we're just waiting for the other guys to catch up now. Slater in sixth. Good result for that guy there. Great recovery drive there. Things could have been definitely a lot worse. Nicholas Marshall finished there for P14. O'Keefe in P7. Schartzer in P8. Just waiting there for around the corner for Steltflug, as he just comes over the line now. And we have one more car to come over, which is Steve Bunting. But that rounds out. Oh, I'm glad to have a race without a safety car. Genuinely, very happy to have a race without a safety car. For the drivers that like to get a momentum on and just have 36 laps of a natural race, they got it down. But yes, we're seeing hearing some frustration on the drivers there. They're already on the radio about the pit lane blunder there. Cristiano Shegetman, I can hear him already talking about his misfortunes. But yeah, overall a nice and clean race there from a lot of the guys there.
Yep. Yeah, we have a good clean race. That gave Caitlin the ability to just run away with this one, but we'll see some good points for the turning point team. Christiana Shegetman up there in fourth, Schartzer in eighth, Gutnick up in the fifth spot. Didn't have a teammate running today, so that's going to hurt Lumos's top spot, and that should put RSR Sport up into first with Caitlin Height getting all of the points for him, and then a great finish there from Victor
Not
Rivera.
a strong enough showing from Lumos, is it? The Lumos guys needed to do better to maintain their lead in the constructors, didn't they?
I think it's just having that second car out on the track really will make or break when you only have one car getting points as opposed to two. You really have to win every race in order to be competitive, and Caitlin so far has just about done that.
Yep, and yeah, immense, absolutely immense stuff for her to be in the lead in a constructors. I mean, that's just unheard of. A constructors lead with one driver. I mean, the other guys should be embarrassed, really. If you've got two drivers out there on the grid firing away at these races every single weekend, there's been two pink cars on the grid every week. There's been two blue cars on the grid mostly every week. There's been two CUDA cars on the grid every week. There's been two yellow cars on the grid every week. And Caitlin has managed to single-handedly raise hell and beat them all. And it's just this has just been an absolutely mega. We are seeing something truly phenomenal here from Caitlin Height. But, good race there from Victor Ribiera as well. I'm sure he will be absolutely patting himself on the back there. And we just want to say, as we were going back down through the last few places there, so we have Rob Slater in P6. He will be happy with that. Danny O'Keefe in P7. I feel like he was pushing there in the midsection, so maybe not such a good strategy there. I feel like he probably could have finished a few places higher up. Corey Schartzer there, not quite managing to match his teammates' pace there. Only a few places behind. Shegetman in fourth and him in eighth. Matt Steltflug there. I reckon he could have had a pretty mega race today if he hadn't have been involved with those moments there, finishing there, just rounding up those 2 points there. Rory Collins there in 10th place. Again, we saw some fantastic driving for him today. Brandon Walker there finishing just outside the points there, unluckily clashing with Matt Turner there and having that spin in the first sector. Buddy Boggs there, doing everything he could there to take P12. Eric Beddoes we saw there trying to lead that train there at the beginning, but just losing those, just on raw pace, just losing a few mid-ground, mid-race spots and tumbling back down to P13 there. Nicholas Marshall, I feel like he just didn't have quite the raw pace today, and got fairly flustered looking for improvements and span a couple of times under pressure and things like that, and ended up having a disappointing run. He's had a few points finishes of late, so that run comes to an end. Steve Bunting, a difficult finish for him today. He's usually a little bit further up the board than that. Stuart Gibbons also, but still finishing behind Nicholas Marshall. So even though Marshall had a bad weekend, he still outperformed his teammates. So a dire weekend there for Stuart Gibbons. He'll be looking to improve into this summer break as he moves to the next Asian Tour. Jackson Carr there disconnecting 15 laps before the end of the race, so an absolutely shocker for him. And Abigail Winters there disconnecting after 2 laps. We must have missed that, but she was gone just on the second lap there, and she had one of the fastest laps in the qualifying session, so that's unfortunate to see that right at the end, and I apologise that we missed that. And that rounds out our grid for this weekend, as we will take a break now for a week. So our next race is in 2 weeks' time. Do we have interviews for tonight's race, Alex?
It seems that every single one of our podium drivers aren't just fast on the track; they're also fast in real life. So they are peeling out and having to go take care of a couple things. So we do not have any interviews for the end of the race like we normally do, but we can do a quick recap here of some of the big moments in the race and what really made it happen. What were some of the things that stood out in this race?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got to once again you got to tip your hats off to that. I do for me, my vote for the driver of the day has got to be 100% without a shadow of a doubt Victor Ribeiro. He took that home advantage, and I love to see that in any driver when they come to their home circuit and it actually physically make a difference. And then the next thing you want to do once you feel that elevation as a driver, when you're dossing around in P9, P10, P5, P8, you're flying up and down the midfield, and then all of a sudden you come to a weekend where you're P3 on merit, and you think, damn, this is my one opportunity, where maybe next weekend and the last weekend before this things didn't look like this. So you just want to capitalize on that, and you just want to maximize that, and you want to bring your points home, and you want to get that result in for your team and for yourself, and especially for your home country fields whilst you're there. And so I feel it feels absolutely fantastic to say that Victor has managed to convert that, and not only that, he managed to improve on that third place and just take another one up to just take another chunk of points there for another bunch of points to get P2 there. So he must be on cloud 9 right there. I do really feel like he had that punch at the start of this race. Shegetman, I do feel like we saw a bit of championship conservatism going into the beginning of this race. He wanted to fight, but I can see he didn't fight as hard as we have seen him fight in many of the other races that we've had leading up to this one. And obviously his blunder in the pit box, he will be absolutely kicking himself for weeks to come if it's moments like that. That's exactly what he didn't need today. Matt Turner there, just keeping it clean and keeping it quiet. I think he started a little bit P5, didn't he? So he's just managed to just keep it clean, make the strategy work, and take just a couple of positions there, avoid the back markers, and be feisty where he needed to be feisty. I think he lost a few positions at the start, didn't he? P8 or 9, and he broke through that whole train to come back for a good podium there. Alex Gutknecht tried the long race, tried to pit at lap 32, tried to out strategy everybody and run with the leading pack long into the race, and it just didn't quite pay off for him there as he finished P5. Still a good points collection there. Rob Slater there having that initial moment there, catching the back of was it Steltflug? I think he caught the back of Steltflug right at the beginning of that race there, and they both went off track. There was no safety car, thank God for that. This race they were all out of harm's way, but it definitely put them both back. And then just a few laps later we saw Steltflug in another incident, and then his car was backwards again. So for Rob to be in P6 and Matt to be in P9, they should be happy with points this weekend. It could have been a better weekend. It could have certainly been worse. Danny O'Keefe there, I feel like he probably could have had a better race this weekend. Got involved with quite a lot of fighting. I feel like that probably slowed him down quite a fair bit. We saw him in quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel action. That probably slowed his out-and-out relentless pacing. Corey Schartzer, I just don't think had the raw pace there to keep up with the front runners this weekend. It's been a Brazilian Grand Prix, hasn't it? It's definitely been it can throw up anything, this race, and again, Caitlin to just come to the front there and just another race, another challenge, another aerodynamic challenge to the car, and to just absolutely obliterate the practice session, absolutely obliterate the qualifying, and just annihilate the race. I mean, you've got a 27.4 in practice over a 28.1, the next fastest car behind that. And then you've got a 27.6 in qualifying against 27.9, the next fastest car behind that. And then you've got a 53 minute and 24 second race time, 35 seconds in front of the car behind. That it doesn't get much perfecter than that. That is just if she keeps doing this, there are doubts that yeah. I mean, it would be absolutely diabolical now. Something insane would have to happen for her to lose the championship momentum now. She's going to be something 55 point something in the lead. It's very, 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 very very much her lead to lose at this point in the championship. So the prize looking like it's going to go her way. Obviously, she's going to win that butt kicker, and it's a shame that she doesn't have a teammate, because her teammate would automatically pick up the second butt kicker. But she doesn't have that teammate, so we will have to distribute our prizes a little bit differently come the end of this season. She will still pick up some custom merch for a championship winning team and driver, etc, etc. But yeah, we still see some close points there. We will see in a couple of days how this affects our points. Obviously, Shegertman and Corey 4th and 9th. Matt Turner 3rd, and Matt Steltflug 9th. Corey Schatzer was 8th. So it's a bit of a mixed up. Some drivers winning, some drivers losing. So I feel like it's going to be a bit slodgy there in the midfield fight there for the constructors. I think things are going to probably stay very tight there, as Katie just absolutely ruins the grid with her enormous lead. Yeah. So and that is it. We're done now. We started out our IFL adventures in season 2 in Europe, and we had an enormous battle between Shegertman, Gutneck and Morbetto, but unfortunately moving into the American leg, we had Morbetto. We saw Morbetto and Gutneck miss a few races, didn't we? And Shegertman really run away with that points lead, and then Caitlin really stepped in, having missed a few races, and it didn't take her very long to peel up to the front, and ever since she's taken that lead, I think she's snapped Cristiano Shegertman's momentum, isn't it? I feel that's what's happened. I feel like he had the pace and he's got the qualities to do this. I feel like we're just looking at a more seasoned racer in Caitlin, and she can just bring all of the other factors that come into a race weekend. If it's a bad race weekend and you've been caught up in some crashes and it's your time to recover, she recovers well. If she's in the lead and needs to hold her head, it's exactly what she does. If she needs to fight for it, I mean, we've seen some races not quite go her way. She's seen her beaten a couple of times by Stathis at Austria and things like that. Like, she didn't have it all her way. And in those races where she was being beaten, she would finish a great close second and not throw it in the bin, risking everything to take the lead. And she'd take the 18 points. And it's been a great campaign for her. And yeah, what they would have achieved if she did have a second driver, maybe we would have seen two RSR teammates fighting for the lead and tripping over each other. But yeah, it's been an incredible round, and we won't see you guys now for a couple of weeks, unfortunately. But it lets us all relax, and it gives everyone a time to have a break, as we also, the drivers will get now 2 weeks to prep for the next race, or have a week off and spend, and have that refresh time. The drivers are absolutely at their own liberty to do what they want now for the next 2 weeks. But IFL shuts down for that 2 week period, and our next race we go to Okayama. We fly all the way over to the Eastern Hemisphere, where we take on 3 Asian tracks. We go to Okayama, and then we go to the Twin Ring Motegi, and then we finish up at Suzuka, where we take our autumn break, the same as the summer break now, where we will finish off our season in the last 3 races, coming back to our European leg with a bit of warmth, hopefully. But so yeah, with rounds counting down, we now only have 6 races to go for both the IFL 3 and the IFL 2, and we have a similar situation for both. We've got a large lead at the top and a very tense midfield fight with with just a third of the races left to go. It's been a wild ride, Alex. I've really enjoyed it so far.
Oh yeah, we still a ways to go, but you can feel it starting to everything sliding into place where it should be. Drivers starting to get into their grooves, and just kind of everything's falling where we're gonna expect it to be at the end of the season. But you never know, we might have a surprise here or there, to really throw a loop in our standings and in our races. Drivers are coming in every week. Not so much in the F3s, but the F2s, we're getting tons of new drivers every single week. So yeah, we could see some surprises coming up in the F2s. The F3s, we had a new driver with Abigail, who unfortunately looked like she had a little bit of a mishap in turn 3, and that caused her to tap the wall. And then I think she had some technical difficulties and drove off the track and slapped the wall there as well. But yeah, it was a great race this week, and we expect great races for the rest of the season. These drivers put on a great show. And that leads me to thanking the drivers again every single time. I want to thank you guys and girls. Put on a great show each week. And we can't run the league without you guys. This is what makes it happen, is great racing, great competition.
Yep, we put on this show for you guys, so you keep turning up and putting on the show for us, guys. We all do the best, but yeah, that is it. That is us for round 11 at Interlagos, as we see another absolutely demoralising win there from Caitlin Height. Victor Ribeiro taking an awesome P2 there, and Matt Turner rounding out our podium as we move on now to our summer break, where we will catch you guys in 2 weeks' time. Good night.
Good night.